What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Up a Creek with Two Paddles. Today we got a third paddler, Mr. Quinn Dobson.
We still only got two paddles, though, so we're going to have to share.
Yeah.
It's just two paddles in one big, messy boat.
But yes, we have the infamous QMD joining us today.
Hi, I'm Quinn. They've taught me up a lot. I feel like that I can't possibly live up to the expectations that they've set. But, here I am to try. And, hopefully it's a good podcast.
I'm not worried about it at all.
All right, fair enough. So
What's on the agenda today?
I wanted to start with some gripes that I had with y'all over some shit you said in previous episodes. So at one point y'all said that the forefront of science and the forefront of innovation...
Specifically me. I said this.
You said this. You agreed.
Well, I tended to agree.
Finish.
Yeah.
But y'all said that the forefront of innovation was in computer science, and I just completely disagree with that.
So
Because
what's your counter?
it's physics. It's always been physics. Every time.
Well, isn't physics one of the reasons we learned to harness
You got to back that up.
electromagnetism?
What's your...
Right. So first of all, you don't have computer science without an understanding of physics, because we got to know about electromagnetism mostly and transistors and stuff like that. But aside from that, what's the next big jump in computer science right now?
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence. What's the other big one? Quantum computing.
Quantum computing, absolutely.
Right. And you can't have
I didn't know what you were leading for.
and that's a physics knowledge jump also.
So
Like-
applied physics.
All right, well,
The point you're making, I don't necessarily agree with. It's foundational. It is foundational.
Right.
That's
but
what
it's not necessarily the like say biochemistry is like physics is foundational upon biochemistry.
Yeah.
Right. Like first physics, and then chemistry is built off the foundation of physics.
We're simply
chemistry
talking-
built off the foundation of biology.
Yeah, well-
Biology built off the foundation of chemistry. So to say that cutting edge is physics, it is a form of physics, right? But it's
Right.
not. I don't think that's totally
you
explicit.
can't-
That's not explicit, really.
my point here is that you can't have the innovation without the physics first.
I think
Absolutely.
And I also
It's
disagree.
foundational.
I also disagree with what you just said, because I don't we didn't build chemistry on top of physics. Like those were just two separate historically speaking.
we found the connection after both were
right,
learned about.
exactly. We
But-
had already been studying chemistry
No,
for
they
hundreds of years.
hypothesized the atom based on physical principles that they saw.
But they were still studying chemistry.
Right. But I mean, before that, before they knew what atoms were, they still studied chemistry. They still had some understanding of different types of reactions
think
and things.
when
They
we're-
didn't necessarily know why those things were happening, because they didn't have models of the atom.
They knew that there was a cause and effect relationship to these. sort of reactions.
Right.
But yeah, it's
So it's
interesting
not
conversation.
necessarily
It's
that.
just the way you phrase it.
Yeah, right. But I that's where I don't think you can really say that it's built on chemistry isn't built on physics. We didn't have physics first and then chemistry because of that later.
They're the same thing.
Right. I
Essentially
mean,
the same thing.
it's all right. It's all just the study in nature, and then we break it up in ways that make it
categories.
right, so
Back
that it's easier
to
to
the-
study. But
Back to the original
So
complaint.
you're saying that
Hold
physics
on.
is the king.
Back to the
That's your argument, is that physics is king.
Yeah.
physics is the basis.
Yeah, leave it to the physicists.
But
Yeah.
back to the
100%.
original complaint, you were saying computer science is not the forefront, physics is. I think the disconnect is when we were speaking about computer science, I think we were making a disconnection between applied physics and theoretical physics.
Yeah.
Because theoretical physics, I think we can agree, is not the forefront of science at the moment.
no, well,
I mean, I'm not saying
depends
it's
who- depends who
it's
you
way
ask, I guess,
back,
but
but I'm
yeah.
saying when we're talking about computers, it's the applied physics.
right. We're in the process of applying physical principles that we only pretty recently came to understand.
Real quick, I do want to
quantum
say,
mechanical things.
any of the listeners, if you hear background noise, we are in a public park in James Island, right outside of Charleston. So just keep that in mind. If you hear some golf carts running around or some kids screaming or a little rain, we're outside right now.
Yeah, we got a nice drizzle going on. It's nice. It's good
To
ambiance.
go back to that similar point, though, is that, say, computer science and quantum computing, right, and artificial intelligence are going to vastly push forward both physics, biochemistry, chemistry in general. I mean, like so it's almost like, I don't know.
It's
because
really that they fuel each other.
they do.
And because, like, you know, the better you understand chemistry, the better you can make tools that help you understand physics, and the better you can make tools that help you understand.
It's almost the same thing.
It is the same thing,
all
right?
The same thing.
Right. It's all the study of nature.
And that
you know?
points to the specification of science, like especially in our modern time, where you don't have these polymath figures anymore so much. Some in some cases you do, but most of the time, what you have are these super specialized individuals that focus on their discipline.
Yeah.
Right. And that sort of is one of the like pitfalls of modern science, and also one of the strengths, because you can get, once you get so specialized, you can really hammer it away at a specific thing, right?
Right.
So I mean, it's definitely important, but
Yeah, and I mean,
you lose some of the continuum that is nature, that is science, that is
Right.
understanding.
Right. Which I will say that a lot of times when there's very specific, like someone studying a very specific topic in science, it's focused on interactions between two like separate like fields that are considered separate, classically speaking, because like you know, right, like biochemistry is biology and chemistry, and it's like where they interact and how that affects humans and
Everything
else.
biological is chemical.
Right.
Everything biological is chemical.
Right. Yeah. Well. I mean, yeah, to a certain extent.
And they even
problem,
say that everything, like everything.
We've been through this. Everything biological is chemical. Everything chemical is physical.
Yeah, this was episode 6.
Additionally, some people argue that everything psychological is biological. Right? Everything psychological is biological.
So here's my.
I don't know if that's true or not. A lot of psychologists argue that.
Right. I mean, here's my kind of. I don't know. I guess it's sort of a disagreement with that statement. Is like, because while it's true that everything's psychological, just to focus in on one thing you said. While it's true, like everything psychological is chemical to a certain extent. It's all biological. Like it's all like different chemicals zooming around your brain meat. But like, that doesn't mean that the best way to study it and have an understanding of it is from a biological or chemical perspective. It's where like psychologists, even if they do say like that it's all chemical, they're still studying it from an emotional standpoint, because you're taking, rather than saying like, oh, they had this much serotonin and this much of these other chemicals in the brain.
Depending on the study.
Right.
Depending on the study.
Depending on the study. But like it's much more intuitive and easier to understand, and much better for coming up with useful like solutions, to just think of it in psychological terms, like of emotions and things like that. Like to just make, you understand that it's all happening due to chemical reasons, but then there's still generalizations that you can make that are extremely useful.
Like, what's the real problem we're trying to solve?
Right, exactly. Because, you might say like, oh, like, whatever, you have a lack of serotonin because of this and this and that. But then, like, if you just look at it like a psychologist, you can be like, well, like, yeah, your dog died and now you're sad. It's like, you can be more specific about it, like your dog died, so you're not getting the same amounts of like dopamine stimuli that you were normally getting with your dog around, and like on top of that you've got like grief symptoms from your dog, so now there's not as many of this chemical and there's more of that chemical and you feel like shit. But like, again, it's easier to just say like your dog died, you're sad.
Again, it's the explanation versus the application.
Right.
It'd be like,
and that's a big thing in science that a lot of people really don't take the time to step back and realize. Like, obviously, there's a lot of great things going on in science that don't necessarily affect our day-to-day life, but that doesn't mean they can't be applied to some field that absolutely transforms our day-to-day life.
Yeah, right. And there's a lot of value in both, right? I mean, getting very specific, getting very technical with the way that you analyze something has certain value. Which, like, to me, it all comes back to like, what kind of useful conclusions can you draw from it? Like, what useful things can you make of it?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not useful.
Physics is king in that respect.
Yeah. Well. I like to talk a lot of shit about other scientific disciplines, because physics is king. Physics is king in that respect. I like to talk shit about the chemists and stuff.
Jesus Christ.
It's raining good now.
I apologize. Hopefully this is soothing instead of annoying.
Yeah, there's some great water falling down. Maybe you want to study that, Mr. Chemistry.
But so essentially,
That
like,
seems like a gravitational thing, right?
if you
Fair
trace
enough, you got me there.
if you trace any other science back to its fundamental roots, it's all physics.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that physics is where it's the most precise, most technical viewpoint to take. 'Cause
Physics.
how I see it is like, right, like all science is studying nature. And when I say like biology, chemistry, physics, those are just like different lenses that you're looking at it.
Right.
It's like, how are you going to answer the question?
Right, exactly.
And
So
like, it's
physics-
hard. Like, if we're going to talk about cancer cells accumulating in your body, you might not talk about it in terms of like Newton's theory of gravity or
Right.
Einstein's theory of relativity. You'd be like, okay, we're going to start thinking about some biological principles, right?
Right.
So it's like, what question are you asking? And it's like all about the lens that you're
Right.
looking at it through, like you said.
Yeah, and that's where like in the sense that it's the most precise, the most technical, you know, because like like psychology you could say is biological. You're like, oh, your dog died. In a biological sense, you could say like, oh, like a member of your pack died, and that like tradition, you know, evolutionarily that would mean that you have a lower chance of survival, so you feel bad because of that. That's the biology perspective. Chemically, you could say like, oh, your dog died, that affected the serotonin levels in your brain. So that, you know, that's a bad, you know, that's the chemical perspective. The physical perspective would be like, you don't have the chemical inputs you need, so now there's not as many neurons firing your brain. There's not as much electromagnetism coursing through those parts of your brain.
As you
That's
said,
the physical perspective. You know,
it's-
like you can,
And all of those things are true.
right.
It's simply the
it's
lens
all
you're
the
trying
same
to
thing.
understand it through.
Right.
Like-
So in the sense that it's the most technical, it's the most precise. Yeah, physics
I
is the
see.
king.
I see your
but
point. I see your point.
the mathematicians, though,
That's the foundation, right?
that's the foundation, right? Because that's literally just pattern recognition,
Right.
And how
Yeah.
how to recognize and calculate and formulate.
Should
more
we
and
be
more
scared about
complex
lightning
patterns.
here?
I mean, we're surrounded by trees, so that it'll hit a tree.
It's
first.
funny watching all of the families running to their vehicles.
Turn that camera.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it's really coming down. But yeah, no, the mathematicians take the cake in terms of like purity of study, because like you know,
You're limited with plain numbers, though. Just like you're limited with the
right,
strict lens of physics. You're limited in the fact that you're just using numbers to
Right.
elucidate I don't even know what that word means. To come up with
bring light to you,
right,
right.
right.
Yeah, just come up with good explanations for what's happening. And like, yeah, with math, it's why math and physics are so closely tied together, is because like you're trying to identify patterns in nature at the like most precise basic level. That's physics. Just trying to identify patterns, period, is math.
So is the biggest question in theory right now about like the source of gravity? Like what is the biggest sort of
that's-
question mark in our understanding of
yeah, so
the current existence of the universe?
I mean that's a big question for sure. Like
The gravity?
where like you
is
know,
it gravity or dark matter? Because it seems like those two things are sort of opposite of each other, right? Or anti or dark energy. What, you know what I mean?
Yeah, not necessarily. So dark energy, it's been a while since I've studied this, so, you know, take a grain of salt, might be off base here, but dark energy is more just like energy.
It's just because the background noise is getting
Yeah,
a little
got
loud,
you.
yeah.
But yeah, dark energy is just energy that they're not sure how to account for in the universe. So like the fact that all the galaxies are moving farther and farther apart, faster and faster.
Which would be a counter to the general thought of how gravity would work.
Yeah,
Right?
I guess you would think that.
Or is that not
I mean,
true?
Not
Am I misunderstanding?
Not necessarily, because gravity's super weak. It's by far the weakest force. That's why you have to. I mean, like, you know, one little electron
Right.
can have like an amount of electronic charge. The electromagnetic force is pretty strong.
Right,
in that
right,
sense.
right, right,
You
right.
need like a whole Earth to make like enough gravity to like for it to like
is
really
that
matter.
foundational as well? Like you start with the strong and weak nuclear forces, and upon that is built the electromagnetic force, and upon that is built the gravitational force. Or am I not thinking about that? right?
Not necessarily. So, I mean, in the history of the universe, gravity is the oldest one, and then you have electromagnetism.
Wait,
came up
wait.
After that,
Doesn't there have to be matter and energy and electricity, like positive and negative charges? present for gravity to even be a thing?
Not positive and negative charges. Just mass. Yeah.
But in order for mass to be coherent and exist, right, there has to be the strong and weak nuclear force as well as.
Yeah, I think I might have that backward actually. Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking of this the wrong way. It's strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, then electromagnetic. Gravity's the youngest. Yeah, I said that the wrong.
Now we're
wrong
on the
way.
same page. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So, was that the only gripe you had?
Oh, trying to think now.
Because that was quite a tangent on that gripe.
that was quite a tangent on that gripe. Yeah, that was the big one. I don't know. I think I had another one, but I can't think of it at the moment.
We should.
So, you think we should like take a pause here? It's pretty.
No, I think we're good. I mean, it sounds fine, and honestly,
Yeah, I can hear perfect. I can hear you perfect.
And me and Blake know that monitoring always sounds worse. It sounds less clear when we're monitoring.
It sounds
through the
better
final
listening
output. Yeah.
back than it does initially.
But again, it definitely is loud, so I
Yeah,
apologize, but I don't give a fuck. We're making it happen.
I kind of like it.
I like it a lot.
I kind of like it. I'm probably the biggest fan of the podcast, so I think it's fine. Most of your fan base right here is saying it's cool.
You're for sure the biggest fan of the podcast.
Dude, it's cool. I've been having friends I've been listening to the podcast.
Awesome.
Like I've been
That's
having
fucking
friends
sick.
tell me that. It's like
Thank you all.
dope, man.
We greatly appreciate the support. Thank everybody who keeps up with it.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
I mean, I've had for like Holden tells me he listens to every episode. I've had a lot of people come out and tell me they really like it.
And I'm just as concerned about like just building a relationship with local people because
Right.
we're hopefully we reach them first.
Yeah, obviously.
So-
You know, like I would love to build like just a relationship with like I don't know, like locally. Like I feel like that's the most important thing. Like when you start to think like too globally and like try to solve the biggest problems, it's like
One step at a time.
What can you touch? What can you do?
It's one step at a time, dude.
It's the psychology problem. They're getting too
Jesus.
general.
Right.
They don't know how to fix stuff.
Go to specific, yeah.
It's a young science, so you gotta give them time.
Got to give them time.
Gotta give them time.
I'm getting a little missed.
Dude, like our understanding of biochemistry was catapulted by computer technology because of our ability to process genetic data. Right? Like
yeah.
it's
the
it's,
Human Genome Project.
or just sequencing genes in general, right?
Yeah,
like of
yeah.
all different kinds of species, right? Now because of that, we have an understanding of evolution in terms of mathematical genetic predictors. You know what I mean? Like it's so crazy.
Keeping it out of the rain there.
Getting a little mist splashing in on us when it starts coming down hard like that.
But yeah, the connection between the sciences is amazing. Definitely the big four are physics, chemistry, biology, and then is there a fourth?
I mean, you gotta have math.
Math.
You
Is
gotta have
Math. Math is the first. I'm missing math at the start.
I mean, technically not a science, but absolutely crucial to all understandings of science.
I would consider it.
Well, I mean,
a
math
science
is
in a
its own
sense.
thing,
You're right.
really. So I guess that you could consider it.
It's
a
the
science.
most precise science because it's like 1 + 1 = 2. That's unfalsifiable.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
that's the whole point of science
true.
is
Yeah,
to
so
present an unfalsifiable
That's true.
hypothesis.
So I would consider math the study of patterns, physics the study of matter and energy, chemistry the study of molecules and changes that they undergo, which obviously is tied in with physics.
Not just molecules,
and it's all
it's
tied together.
atoms. Atoms is
Well,
yeah.
right, but but also like how those atoms operate as a building
As a
block.
molecular unit.
Right, and I
Yeah.
mean energy is part of that too, because like
Absolutely
that
it
affects,
is.
Right. But as far as the lens you're looking through, I would consider it the study of molecules, and then of course you have to study the building blocks and the changes they undergo and stuff. Biology as the study of life is really the only way, because life is such a hard thing to define. Like even biologists don't have great definitions for it.
Yeah.
I think my sister Lucy, she's got a biology degree. I think she gave me one. That was something like a chemical process, like capable of like
Sustaining itself.
sustaining
See,
itself
and this is-
indefinitely.
Me and you have talked about this a lot because hypothetically, technically, the sun's alive.
So
Using that strict definition.
So right, that strict definition. But another part of my sister's definition was that it has to be able to
Reproduce.
reproduce, Right.
The sun does reproduce. It will reproduce, maybe.
But it's
right?
not.
If it dies and explodes, it will.
It's not a direct reproduction. So like.
Yeah,
it's,
in that
its
case, a
parts,
nuclear reactor. Would
But you're not going
Right,
to
like
say
its parts might be used for another star, but
Right.
it's not exploding in order to make another
again,
star.
it's a continuum. It's all you know.
Right.
but a mule is alive.
Right, yeah, but see, that's what I brought up with her too. Is like that, like there's plenty of
Yeah,
animals
right,
that
that's a
can't
good point.
reproduce.
Yeah.
I mean, most
For
ants.
sure.
Yeah,
Don't
like
have
what we were just
reproduction,
saying.
most
Or
bees
bees.
don't
Anything
have
that has a
reproduction.
queen, like.
Right.
But
then
we know it's
again-
alive. We can still point to stuff and like, hey, is this used to be alive? It's
Right.
not currently alive. Is an apple still alive when I eat it? I think it is. It? Huh. Interesting.
I don't think so.
How dare you? The apple, it talks to me.
If you plant it and water it, it's going to grow. So I would
Right,
say
that's a
yes.
good point,
I
right,
would
like,
say yes.
Well,
There's
that'd be
seeds.
the seeds too, though, wouldn't it?
Well, I know,
That'd be
but
the-
still, the apple is the-
nourishes the seeds.
It's all
That's
one
true.
unit. I don't think you can really separate the apple from the seeds. And that, if you're asking that question,
right. So
Yeah, I suppose.
that's so weird to think about. I've heard people have that argument for nutritional. It's super fun, basic argument, but they're like, when you kill something and eat it, it's dead,
Yeah.
right? I'm eating a fruit that is still alive, technically.
Right.
Yeah, fuck
and
that
it's-
argument.
Like,
Well, and like
it's a fundamental argument.
Meat's
but
good for you.
They're basing that on their experience. I think
Yeah.
these are like vegan fruitarians,
Of course they are.
right? And they can live that way. They
I'm not saying
you
they
know what I
can't,
mean?
but
They
I'm
can
saying
live
for
that way
me,
if they
that's
want to.
bullshit. Meat is absolutely healthy for you.
But how do people get away with not eating? If that is true, if meat is good for you, but people definitely get away without eating it.
Well,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course. But also, would you get away, like, without the modern science we have to develop supplements? Would you have the same quality of life?
Yeah. There's before
mean,
modern
you know.
supplementation. There's definitely been vegetarians.
Yeah, and they probably had a lot lesser quality of life. I mean, because I was
I
gonna
don't know.
say,
Yeah,
like,
maybe, I don't know.
I mean, back in the day, fucking peasants would eat bread all day long. Their life probably sucked. They probably felt like shit all the time.
They also supplemented with milk. The people who ate a lot of wheat, they also kept a lot of like goats and sheep and stuff that they could produce dairy from.
so just a ton of inflammation
If-
all the
if,
time.
If you
Protein,
have if
you
you
know.
have dairy and wheat back then, like you're gonna grow up to be a strong, healthy boy. They got
Relative to a strong, healthy boy today is what I'm saying.
those people were just as capable, I believe.
I
They're
don't know.
I think they could be that they were like think about it like there were people then who lived off wheat and dairy and water and salt.
Yeah.
I mean I don't know like
They built the
medieval people
civilization.
they've literally built things like the cathedrals and the colosseums, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
so I mean they're I don't it's hard, there's variability.
Well, yeah, but
and humans are super adaptable.
maybe
so
you're-
this whole push towards like there's one way to eat
But what
is
if-
ridiculous to me because there's not.
What if you're healthy and building a coliseum at 18 and you're dead by 30? What about that?
I mean, yeah, which is probably. I mean, that.
Yeah, but you started building it at 10.
like
But that's my whole point. I'm talking relative to today. Like nowadays, you got 50-year-olds on construction
Right.
sites.
We got it better now.
Back then,
That's
they
a
were fucking
ridiculous argument.
12-year-olds.
We have it better now.
Yeah, yeah, right. And I mean, I do think like, I don't know, the whole like meat is murder thing. Like, there's still like a pretty significant portion of humans that just don't get to really fucking eat at all. So like,
Yeah.
to be like, well, no one should be eating meat. Like, you know,
That's
and
ridiculous.
not that every vegan like says that either, but like,
So we shouldn't focus on eating meat as the problem. We should focus on industrial farming as the problem, as it is.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the fact that we eat meat. It's how we get the fucking meat.
yeah,
The meat itself is not the problem. It's the
How you produce the meat.
yeah, that's the biggest issue. If
Yeah.
you go out and hunt, there's nothing wrong with that, and most people will agree with that. But it's the industrial farming, plants too. That's what's fucking ruining it. It has nothing to do with meat itself.
I will say that as like speaking from my own experience, if I've done this, if I wake up in the morning and I only have like fruit like apples, bananas, maybe a little bit of orange juice,
Yeah.
I am not satisfied. But if I wake up in the morning and I eat like 2 or 3 eggs
Yeah,
and some apples and like a
Yeah.
banana or some orange juice,
Little protein
or
in
just a
the
little bit of
morning.
ground beef, I'm so much more satisfied, and I don't think about eating for hours instead of like an hour. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
some protein in the morning is.
Well,
is
sugar
what
is
you
going to be
need.
the first thing your body uses. So if you're loading up with a bunch of sugar in the morning and you're going to work, you're going to burn through that quicker because your body's going to use sugar as its first source of energy.
That's not necessarily true. Actually, muscles at a resting capacity, they mostly burn fats as opposed to glucose.
Well, at a resting capacity.
Which is the first thing you do when you're at a rest when you wake up in the morning.
But I'm saying I wake up in the morning and go work a physical job.
I wake up in the morning just already doing push-ups.
I wake up in the morning just
Like, you know.
my dick's in my hand's in my pants already. Dick like a diamond. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you
That's
talking-
because I eat meat, ladies and gentlemen.
Hopefully you're talking about hardness and not like the shape of it.
That's another reason. It's all person to person. Like,
Yeah.
it depends on what you do. It depends on what suits your physical makeup.
Yeah.
And like, for me, I like having a little bit more sugar in the morning because I feel like it fuels me more readily. And for me, I like that. I like that really quick burst of fuel from sugar in the morning, and then by the time lunch comes around, I'll get some more proteins, and then
Right.
it can sustain me through the rest of the day, and I'm satisfied.
Right, and you're fasted at that point, and you're a relatively glucose dependent person. You've never gone through the process of becoming truly fat adapted.
Not even close.
So of course that's how you're gonna feel,
Yeah.
right? Like of course. And I'm the kind of the opposite. I literally have done intermittent fasting for years. So when I wake up in the morning,
I rarely eat in the morning.
The last thing on my mind is getting sugar into my body as soon as I wake up. Like that's actually
that's not
the
what I'm
opposite
saying.
of what I want.
That's not at all what I'm saying, though. Like you.
No, I thought that's what you were saying.
No, I'm saying
it seemed like what you were saying.
if
exactly.
I do, like I've also pretty much like I usually don't eat breakfast. I usually make it to like 12 or 1 before I eat anything.
Yeah, but
I'm
you've
saying-
broken your fast with those liquid sugar calories that you're talking about.
I know, but I'm saying like, well, first of all, I want to say I think that if there's anything, and also kombucha's 50 calories, which I think technically doesn't break a fast.
As soon as you put in any calories,
Oh, I know,
that
but
breaks
like the
fast.
strict like intermittent fasting, like the whatever. Like is
Yeah,
when if all the like mainstream bullshit's like, oh, you
Okay.
can have less than 90 calories and it doesn't technically break your fast.
That's
But also
horseshit.
I'm saying if there's anything I'm going to break my fast with, what's better than fucking kombucha?
I would argue some eggs probably.
But I don't know. I just
That's
disagree.
much more round. It has carbohydrates, it has
like-
protein, it has fats. It's so much more
I know,
well-rounded.
but I like having the first thing in my stomach in the morning, and I don't do this every morning. Like I said, I usually don't have any breakfast. I usually just run on coffee.
Right.
But I like the first thing that wakes up my stomach is a really hearty probiotic that's really good for me.
Yeah.
It knocks in and digesting into work. Like
See,
it's
it's hard for me to drink kombucha on an empty stomach. But again,
It's my favorite time
When
to
you
drink it.
say you're not eating until noon, like I hear you, but those calories, like if it's 80 or 100 calories,
Yeah.
and also you're having like maybe a little, like you like to get yogurt in the morning.
No.
Like no, you used to on the way to work. You get like the little kefir shakes and stuff like that. You'd see
Oh
pictures
yeah.
of those.
So anything that I usually eat in the morning, I try to make it something probiotic, something.
Right.
Also, those little kefirs have like 10 grams of protein in them. Like,
Right.
I mean, I try to be mindful if I do eat in the morning, but
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, damn, I had like a terrible dinner. I'm going to fucking Wendy's. You know, like I'm just not strict with it. I do what I feel like
Right,
doing.
right.
I listen to my
by
body.
no means am I saying that intermittent fasting is better and that being like non-glucose dependent is
Yeah.
better. That's not what I'm saying. My argument is,
I know.
of course, you're going to be hungry when you've fasted for the 12 hours overnight.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to, especially if you are glucose adapted, and
Yeah.
that's what your body craves. You are 100% going to
Yeah.
be out of carbohydrates by the time you wake up.
Yeah.
As opposed to fats, right?
Yeah.
You can go way longer without being hungry if your body is
Right.
optimally tuned to burn and utilize its own
Yeah,
fats,
but-
which takes specific metabolic machinery
Right.
that is only expressed in certain environments. Right?
I just think specifically for myself, I've got a pretty good balance. I never it's rare that I'm hungry enough to I have to eat this morning. Usually I wake up, I might be a little hungry. I'm like, damn, I could eat. And then I get a cup of coffee in me and I'm cruising.
Right, but do you have coffee only until 12?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
Most
Okay.
mornings, yeah.
Okay. Then you're that's pretty much intermittent fasting.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's not what you said though at first.
No, because I was speaking for the times that I don't do that, because we were just speaking about what you eat in the morning.
Optimally,
talking
you're
about-
adapted to both, right?
were
Because
talking
then
about
you're
eating
flexible. Then you can do what's best for
I
the
think
situation.
that's what I'm closest to.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. You can do what's best for the situation. That's why if I am hungry and I'm going to work, I like a little bit more sugar in the morning because it's a quick jump burst of fuel, and I get going and I feel good with some caffeine. And then lunchtime, I can get more meats, and it's a better balance. And that meats can kind of fill me up and satisfy me, and I can sustain throughout the rest of the day on that energy. But I rarely eat in the morning. I'm just saying, you were talking about how you feel eating fruits in the morning versus eggs. And that's why I was speaking about what, if I eat in the morning, how I feel like. But I agree with you. I think we've all talked about like protein in the morning versus just sugar. Like you said, you feel a lot better if you get a little protein in the morning.
I like protein in the morning.
I don't feel that significant of a difference.
I definitely do.
No, yeah, it's very noticeable for me. If I can wake up and get like some eggs or some Spam or something, that it's so much more noticeable that I just feel better for like until lunch. It's tough with a baby because right now me and Isis are on opposite schedules, so it's like one of us watching the baby all the time basically.
Same.
Which is tough because like for me it's the morning time and then I'm watching the baby. It's hard to make me breakfast and her breakfast and try and keep her entertained the whole time.
Me and Jackson usually eat the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I do a lot of the time. A lot of the time I'll make like scrambled eggs or whatever, and then that's our breakfast.
Yeah. He's pretty flexible too. He loves milk. He could live on milk if he wanted to.
Yeah,
but he'll eat eggs. He likes cheese.
Yeah, cheese. Cheese is a good one for babies. Lots of fat and protein and stuff. Just we try not to go too overboard with the salts.
Yeah.
Which cheese can be bad about, but
you gotta have salt though.
Yeah, you gotta have some. Yeah, you just can't go crazy with it. Like if I'm making Spam, I probably don't give Bella too much.
Dude, bacon's
Spam.
Nuts. Bacon is so salty.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, that's why it tastes so good.
You got to be careful if you fry an egg in some bacon fat. Like, say you fry some egg, like say you fry some bacon, and then you're about to scramble an egg in the bacon fat.
You better not salt that bitch.
Yeah, if you salt
that
those eggs, you better be careful because you're playing with fire there.
A little pepper and a little garlic powder.
Yeah.
That's about all you need on those eggs.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, eggs and bacon grease. Oh my god.
Oh, hell yeah.
But back when I was really trying to lose weight, I literally would, no matter the circumstances, I was getting those 16 motherfucking hours in. If it was a family breakfast on Saturday, I wasn't eating that shit.
Yes, I'm just
like
not
I was
strict with
so in the I have to intermittent fast. It's the only way to fucking do it.
And see,
and like I was like, that was in my head, right?
Yeah.
And like that is just as limiting as being totally glucose dependent.
That's what I was about to say, because you're restricting your quality of life by trying to improve your quality of life. So it's all about the balance, like.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying I just
not
like
fun to be around.
Like I just think about like
fuck you.
Like I'm like, oh shit, like. I ate dinner, like, say I went to bed at like 10, and I'm like, well, fuck, I ate dinner at like 5. I was kind of hungry when I went to bed. Now I woke up, and I'm like, shit, I'll eat breakfast. Who gives a fuck?
You know who requires breakfast? Mama and baby.
Yeah,
they require that motherfucking shit. There's no options there.
Yeah, nah.
But yeah, I just play it day by day.
I would feel bad if I couldn't at least put some food in front of my daughter for her to eat a breakfast.
I know, and that's the thing we try to do is that sometimes he doesn't eat it, but at least we're going to lay it out for him. If we waste a egg,
right? Yeah,
I mean, you got to put it out for them, even if they don't eat.
I mean, their stomach's this big, anyway. Like you don't need to present them with that much food.
And they're so intuitive too. It seems like they're so tuned in to like what they need. Right. But at the same time, they'll eat bullshit. If it tastes good, they'll eat it.
Yeah, right. Right.
I loved Pop-Tarts.
Right. He loves muffins. You know what I'm saying?
He was munching one this morning when I got there.
I know.
Who doesn't? Muffins are great.
Got 3 bags.
Muffins are fucking bomb.
If you don't like muffins, fuck you. Frankly, I mean, you can live your life how you want, but it's gonna be worse.
I'd take a muffin over a cupcake any day.
Can you imagine going through your life without having a fucking fresh blueberry muffin with butter on it?
Just take
the fuck out of here.
Fucking take my shins rather than take my muffins.
You know what I used to do before?
Those poor North Koreans.
I wonder if they butter their cockroaches. I'm sorry.
They're eating cockroaches. You think they have butter?
I was just kidding.
Well, cockroaches got milk, I think.
Yeah, you can milk that motherfucker.
make you some roach butter.
They're out there milking rats.
What if,
And
what if,
we're making fun of a really
Holy
awful
shit.
situation.
what if your only
that's what we
form?
do.
What if your only form of nutrition was semen? Like your only form. You were in the desert, right?
Like, what the
And you had 2 days to get home. You didn't have shit. Okay, but you know good and damn well that there's fucking protein and fat in that fucking semen. So you're just.
I mean, I'm
fucking
pre-
going
I'm-
in
If
your
you're
own mouth.
starving, can you even produce semen?
Of course you can. Are you fucking kidding me?
Like, and it's.
I'm just kidding. I don't know. Would your dick get hard in that case?
That's what I'm saying.
It'd be
Like,
pretty
how.
difficult to get a stiff, yeah.
Like, why does no one ever think of
And
that?
almost,
You know what I mean?
also, you're eating
Someone
protein
has,
that your
not
body
me.
just produced. Like, it can't be. You know what I mean?
Well, you going
No,
use
but it's
it-
already stored. That's the
Alright.
thing. It's already stored.
Well, not
Your
after you
body's-
use a little bit of it.
Right. So it would depend on if you came in with a full sack. Like, had you emptied your sack like right before you went on this? Because if so, you're fucked. Like, you have an empty sack.
So that's why we should be saving our semen
Can you
for
imagine,
survival purposes.
yeah, for survival. Yeah.
Can you imagine you're like whatever, you're like a girl in like a town next to a desert or whatever, and you're like about to hook up with this guy. He's like a hardcore survivalist, and he's like, no, I can't come right now. I'm about to go out in the desert. I gotta make sure.
I got a camping trip next weekend.
I gotta camp.
I gotta have a full sack.
Gotta be
Listen,
stored up.
it's funny I'll say this, but there's a genuine argument right now that I'm gonna just. There's a genuine argument right now that withholding your cum is good for you because it possesses a huge amount of hormones.
Yeah, fuck
Right.
that.
So if you if you have that endogenous in your body,
Listen,
right,
you're only
your
on
body-
this planet for so long. Get it in when you can.
Of course. But the idea is
Have
not
your
to just
fun.
be wasting that shit every other day. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's why I save it.
Yeah,
Every-
exactly. Saving up.
Next time I go camping,
I
I
save
don't have to
it.
buy anything.
My nuts look like a 40-pound sack. What you talking about, son?
I don't save it in my body. I save it in jars. Does that do the same thing?
Yeah, but then you got to carry it with you on the trip. It's like, what the fuck, man?
It probably needs to be refrigerated.
You drop a jar in the woods, it shatters all over the ground. 10 years later, a little half tree boy shows up at your fucking door.
Groot.
See, this is a
And that's how Groot was born.
He's like, Dad.
this is a bit right here.
Oh,
This
yeah,
this is a bit.
You'd have to work on that one.
That's a
that was
little-
rambling.
That's a little 3-minute teeter-totter right there.
You'd have to tighten that one up real quick.
But yeah,
Oh,
store your
man.
cum for survival. I like it. I think.
Yeah, right.
See, let's
They
get
should
on.
start putting
same-
teaching it in the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, same
Let's-
reason I never piss.
Let's become health gurus on TikTok and push that to people.
Let's not.
Dude, I swear to God, this is an argument. I'm not making this up.
No,
man.
yeah, no. I know.
I've
what you're talking
heard
about.
it.
I've
It's
heard
pretty
people say that.
Common in popular culture right now. The
Is
whole
it-
semen retention.
Yeah,
argument.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I don't fucking know. I feel someone would have to present me with a study or something.
But then you
I
see
don't know.
Mike Tyson, and he was like, "I fucked every week." You know
Right,
what I'm saying?
exactly. And then you got
Yeah,
these
like,
like
who
right.
gives a shit?
Arnold
I fucked every week.
Schwarzenegger had like fucking 40 mistresses or whatever.
Right.
Let's not get back on Tiger Woods.
Don't even get us started on
Don't
that
even
shit.
get it started on that fucking
my
dick
God.
hard motherfucker.
Dude, but like, think about Elon Musk. He's got multiple children with
Yeah, he's
multiple
got a
women.
ton of kids, yeah.
multiple women too. So-
Wow.
Yeah, so get it out.
Yeah, that's an argument.
But
too.
he-
It's
but
there.
he-
The
he's
argument's
not-
there. I'm not disagreeing with
I mean,
this.
Elon
Have fun
Musk,
with yourself and with others.
Elon Musk, I wouldn't say is exactly like
A physical specimen.
Right, he's not like a physical.
He's not a
specimen.
pimp daddy. He's literally like implanting these women in vitro type shit, like or
Right,
like
right.
with
Right,
what do they
he-
call it?
He doesn't
like-
have time for that shit.
Right, he like shows up in like a bio suit with like a briefcase. He's just like turn around. He pulls out a fucking turkey baster full of his
vial of
skunk and yeah, and then he's like, all right, like we're naming that one like my fucking Google password,
He's like,
so I don't
this
forget
is
it.
far more time efficient.
Right.
I told you
Far
this
more-
would be a
far more
good
time-
podcast.
Far more time efficient. Right.
Far more time efficient.
Right.
I have no time. I don't even own a house.
This is son number 7. His name is 9% exclamation. You know.
I actually named my
Oh
son
my
after
God.
the United States debt. So
So, his
So
name-
you named it China?
Yeah, his name's just a lot.
no, we don't know how much it is. It's a very big number.
Yeah, it's up there. 10 to the 12, something like that. 10 to the 13.
I
Very,
fucking
very
love
big
you
number.
guys. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Shit.
I'm glad we found this shelter though. This
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, it's a
This
nice
is
spot.
very convenient.
if we wouldn't have, we would have been fucked.
Thank God we didn't have to do this in the truck.
Yeah, fuck that. That would've
Yeah,
been-
fuck that.
This is way
It
nicer.
would have been okay.
Dude,
but
those
this is
fish
nicer
are
for-
active over there.
The rains, they got them. They're like, fly. Oh, it's a raindrop.
I wonder what kind of fishes are in there.
I don't know.
I bet they got some mullet.
You would know. You're the only one of us who would know.
Yeah.
Coastal ponds play by different rules than the upcountry ponds. They really do. Like you'll find like
makes
fucking
sense.
tarpon and redfish and that shit.
Really?
It's crazy.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yep.
That's pretty crazy.
Like you'll find like golf course ponds because like think about it. Like sometimes there's a huge storm surge, right? If like say there's a golf course
Yeah.
right on the water.
Yeah.
The water came up 20 feet during the storm surge. Now the water is connected to that little
Right.
depression that formed that pond. Water goes out really quickly in a matter of hours. Right? And then
Yeah.
now you have a fucking 9-foot tarpon stuck in a pond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what do those tarpon do? They come up into the shallows to feed on the prey. So now they follow that, and the prey typically
Right.
goes into the shallower
So the bigger
environments.
fish can't get them.
Right.
Exactly.
I
So
follow that.
yeah, it's weird. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
plus-
that happened right here.
Plus, you've got these crazy effects. Like certain types of fish lay eggs small enough that they can get swept up by like wind, and then it
Right.
can rain other places. So that's where you have salmon in what's the Crater Lake in Oregon? There's
right,
salmon
right.
in Crater Lake
Right.
because the
Is that not from stocking?
No,
It's really from natural. That's
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, they're some of the only still water salmon in the world,
Wow.
if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's because their eggs got swept up by like
Or think
wind,
about
and then
it.
they're light enough to get carried in clouds and stuff in
That
the upper atmosphere,
seems
and they
less
can get rain
plausible
somewhere
than
else.
like a salmon got snatched up by a fucking eagle and it was pregnant as fuck and
Uh.
got taken up into the fucking mountains.
Maybe
and-
it was a really smart eagle, and it was like, if I put a pregnant salmon in that bitch,
I'll have food forever.
I'll have food forever. I'll be the
Holy
one
fuck.
eagle that knows where all the other eagles will be like, where are you getting this salmon?
I'm gonna
I'll
have
be like,
West Nile by the end of this
a
motherfucker.
fucking
Dude.
secret.
You said they weren't that bad.
I'm getting lit
We
up,
should have
man.
brought like a citronella
I-
candle or something to the light
after
right
the
here.
after the rain lightened up, I'm starting to feel them a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Bastards.
Well, we can get out of here in about
No,
15
I'm
more
good. I'm
minutes.
chilling, bro.
Yeah,
Well, at least we do
I
an
can deal
hour.
with West Nile. I'm pretty strong. With all the semen, that's.
Oh, Quinn's already got Lyme, so
yeah, I do have Lyme's disease.
Do you really?
Yeah, from when I was a kid, I had a tick, and I got Lyme's
Got your
disease. I
ass.
got Lyme's disease. My sister used it once. She in college, they wanted her to help plan like some event.
Did you get it in Union or
No, when I was in New Jersey.
New Jersey? It's very prevalent up there.
Yeah, there's a lot of deer ticks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, one of my sisters, they wanted her to help plan like this or that because she was like an RA type in college, and she was like, "Oh, I can't. Like my brother has Lyme's disease. Like I can't." And they like didn't know what it was. They were just like, "Oh, like yeah, don't worry about it. Like go home, do what you got to do."
Yeah, please leave.
right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, when I killed that deer last year and Austin helped me
that's
butcher it,
fun.
dude, the insides of the quarters were covered in ticks.
Yeah, I bet.
Covered in
Covered.
ticks.
I bet.
And
Yeah.
this was only like probably a year and a half old little buck.
Years, yeah, they got no prehensile appendages. They can't pick stuff off. So once they're on
Yeah.
there in a good spot, deer
Can't get
can't
'em.
do anything about it.
Done
right?
for.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That'd be so miserable. Have you seen like the bot flies and stuff that like dig into fucking animals like
yeah,
deer?
that's
Good
just gross.
fucking god! Like, can you? What bitches we are? Like say like an open grassland field that hasn't been cut in years, right?
Right.
Let's say the grass is like up to your nipples at least, right? A dog will fucking trick off in that motherfucker, and they don't give a fuck, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't care about
Yeah.
spiders, it don't care about ants, it don't care about whatever the ticks, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
You can never pay me
No.
to run
Yeah,
into
I feel
like
you.
a thick grassland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus, those like animals don't, they're just so, like, are they stupid or are they tough? Or is that the same thing? Like,
It's
You know?
Or
a
our-
lot of both, I think, for dogs.
But also, we're
Crazy,
supplementing
bro.
we're supplementing our toughness with technology.
like pants.
Give me a
yeah,
pair of
there's-
waders, I'll go through that fucking thing, no
Right.
problem.
There's a cool someone talked about it, and then I went and found the study they were talking about. But they did a study, and they studied how efficient animals could move. So the units are like how many calories do they burn per mass per distance or whatever. So it's like, if a smaller animal burns the same amount of calories traveling the same distance as a bigger animal, then the bigger animal is being more efficient. They're getting, they're moving more weight farther with the
Right.
same amount of energy. So they did this study and they found that condors were by far the most efficient movers
They just
because
coast.
once they're coasting, they're
Yeah.
coasting. So what they found was that humans we were pretty far down the list, even though we're still pretty good for land animals because we're persistence hunters. We would just follow
Right.
animals, right?
Just
follow
go.
animals until they were too
yeah.
tired to run away anymore, and then you
Yeah.
can hunt them. So we're pretty good.
Nice.
Damn, son. We're pretty good about being efficient with our movements. But what they found was they did the study again, and they took this test on a human on a bicycle, and the human on a bicycle can move more efficiently than a condor in like active flight,
yeah.
like while
That's
they're
so
they're flapping their
Yeah.
wings.
It can do more work more efficiently than that.
Right. So like we're the innovators, right? Like we
That's another reason
find
that
a way.
people who ride bikes are bitches. Come on, get off your fucking bikes and get on those motherfucking feet.
What do you
people.
mean?
Yeah. If you're not running on your hands, you're not doing it right. You got to be handstand.
Yeah, I'm talking
creepy
all
crawling.
fours.
All fours, right? I mean, get your forehead involved.
So
is what
we
I'm
should. We
saying.
need to be.
Fuck cars.
We need to be
If the muffler's
pushing
big enough.
semen retention and bear running. That's how you find your full self.
And there.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, quit. Hey.
Picking up electricity?
Yes,
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean
it's the shift in electricity. It's not
The
Right,
di-
that's what
it's the fact that
causes
it's moving.
The
right.
mic,
The
right.
diaphragm's a magnet, right? So,
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
That's crazy. That's so sick.
Yeah.
Fucking yeah. But yeah, so like we've just always been innovators. That's how we fix our
Yeah.
problems. Is we think our way.
We
around
have
it.
brain power. We
Yeah,
don't
we
need
have-
our
we have-
bodies to
we
be
have
as
brain power,
tough.
right.
Hence the future shitty little gray dickless alien.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
I don't know why-
shitty is.
Right. It's
I don't know why
it's
he's
a,
got
it's
to
a
be dickless. He could have a dick.
They're
I
all.
mean-
That's what they are. There's never any people who are abducted, people who have a personal experience, even in movies. Like they're always like genderless, right?
How do we know they aren't
maybe,
just wearing
maybe
suits?
they got maybe they're on a biosuit. Maybe they got their dick on their back.
Maybe they're tucked.
And they just don't see it because they're looking at you. Maybe they're tucking. Yeah, they got their little balls.
Maybe that's
tucked up
where
in their little
trans
alien butt
came
cheeks.
from. The aliens came down and were like, you got to start tucking.
Yeah, just whoop. Like
What
that.
would be a
Check
more
it out.
optimum place to put a dick? I don't think because think
Finger?
about it. The
I think
dick is one of the
probably-
most powerful. Like it's right on your
And
hips.
pregnant.
Like that's your most
Yeah,
powerful.
just pa-chow.
You know what
I
I'm
mean, I feel
saying?
like my arms are a little more powerful, but yeah.
Then your ass is more powerful than your arms. Come on, man. Unless you.
Okay,
think
but you
about it.
you
But
were
why-
saying it
why
was
are you
my
talking
dick,
about
though.
power?
No, I'm saying. No,
Why are we
listen,
talking about power?
Listen, listen.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm trying. I asked the question: Is there more? Is there a more optimal place to put a dick?
Your
Right?
fingertip.
No,
No, 'cause you gotta
Because
use
if
your
you-
fingers for-
If
yeah.
you want to force,
Okay.
if you
You're gonna
want to,
cut
I
your-
use my dick to pee.
You're gonna cut your dick up.
It's not
dude.
just a reproductive organ.
if you want to forcefully fuck something, you want to have it on the most powerful part of your body, which is your midsection.
Yeah,
But
that's
that
true.
doesn't have
Your
anything
hands
to do with reproduction. You forcefully fucking somebody has nothing to do with reproduction.
Oh, yeah, it fucking does, buddy. Let me tell you what.
You got two dads here you're talking to.
Most sit back. Most animals are like 2 pumps and out of there.
Where from? What that midsection?
That the mid-
powerful ass.
Pow! Oh shit! I dropped something on the ground.
You never see a fucking animal with it on their
Holy shit! you're
dick
good.
on their hand. Come on, now get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. You don't see. Yeah.
So there's
like
no
little
more
animals.
optimal place to put a dick.
I mean, I
Yeah,
think it
probably
What about your
Nice.
depends.
head?
Your neck's not as strong as your thighs.
No,
Again, why are we discussing strength in the city?
fucking joke, dude.
I know, but it makes no sense.
That's what jokes are like. You're taking something that you know is like stupid, and trying to talk about
Those
it. in a way.
mosquitoes are all over you,
So
dude.
we were kind of talking about flies, so I think it's a good time to bring up my fly fact, which is that fruit flies come one big sperm that is 20 times as long as the fruit fly.
That's not real.
What the
Yeah,
fuck?
it is.
That's
Google
not
it.
real.
Google it right now. So the explanation is that like for big animals like us, sperm, since they're little and tiny, they have to travel a really long way to get to an egg. But
Go get
for,
your jacket.
Yeah, do that.
They're all over you. I don't see him on us. I just see him
Yeah,
on him.
he's got the sweet blood, right? Yeah, he's doing something.
Some big ass mosquitoes too.
Yeah, right. They don't want me. I got the Lyme's disease. They're like, fuck this
Yeah,
guy.
they know. They're like, no, he's got bad blood.
Ugh.
I don't want him. And I'm flanneled up.
That's why I'm
with
not
jeans
afraid of
on, so I'm all
vampires.
right.
Yeah, right. That's why I'm not afraid of vampires, though.
So that's the immunity to
Yeah.
vampirism.
They hate garlic and limes, you know.
Yeah, if you don't want to worry about vampires, just get a bad blood disease, and you'll be
just
fine.
Get you some HIV.
Perfect.
No vampire wants that.
But a vampire's immortal, so why would they give a fuck?
That's a good point.
They even have blood.
Immortality-
I think they're bloodless, aren't they?
Immortality
I don't know.
doesn't.
I think they're fucking not real, but they.
No, they
I don't know.
they come alive every 600 years. You haven't heard?
No, I can't say I
the
have.
absolutely proven facts.
All I know is they're the opposite of Italians because they hate the sun, they hate crucifixes, and they hate garlic. And that's Italians love all that
The
shit.
opposite of Italian.
Yeah, Italians are anti. They're the anti-vampires.
Right.
I don't know who the opposite of werewolves is.
What do werewolves say?
Scandinavians.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know what I'm basing that.
I'm just
pale little-
gonna say I was just gonna say it's true and kind of
Pale little hairless white people.
I don't think little is fair. I think Scandinavians.
Well, how about the
are big as
Chinese?
hell. Yeah, there you
Pale
go.
little hairless
Yeah.
white people.
Yeah, there you go.
That's so ridiculous, dude.
Yeah.
They like. I guess they would have to hate the moon or something,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
or like them. I don't know. Do werewolves like the moon? I don't know.
I think it's against their will most of the time, so I don't think so.
Yeah,
A lot of
in
them
most
like fuck
myths.
it. Like I hate that I turn into a vampire, but I can't help it.
That's
Yeah.
why werewolves.
Werewolf, sorry.
That's why werewolves are the most noble of predators.
Right. They can't help to kill.
Yeah, it's like between them and like dragonflies.
They don't want to do it. Vampires want to do it.
They like it.
Yeah.
Werewolves are like, fuck, it's a full moon tomorrow. I don't want to murder my son, but god damn it.
Yeah.
I can't help it. It's the full moon tomorrow.
This is a full moon. I was supposed to be back to my fucking chain chamber where I can chain myself up by now, but then traffic, you know. And now I'm gonna fucking murder my family again.
So have y'all seen American Werewolf in London? Have y'all seen that movie?
I can't say I
I
have.
haven't either. I was gonna ask.
Great point, Blake. Great point.
I was gonna ask what the what this werewolf story was,
I don't know.
the plot was.
Oh,
He got bit by a radioactive spider.
yeah. Turned him into a werewolf.
Yeah.
Seems
I
unlikely.
think that's how that happens.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they never, they never go. It's always on theme with superhero. That's the thing that I hate. It's always fucking on theme. Like, Dr. Manhattan got exposed to radiation and now he can like see through time. It's like a physics thing. Like it's always on theme. Like no, they're never like bit by a fucking rabid badger and now they can like shoot bananas out of their nose or some
Yeah.
shit. It's never like. It's always like, you know what I mean?
That'd be a great superpower.
Right. It's
Yeah.
all the same story over and over.
You could
again.
do it with like if you could do it with
Same
like a lot of
stories.
force.
Oh man.
Yeah, like think you can
Well, no,
shoot a
you just
banana.
go feed the hungry.
Oh yeah, that's fair. I was immediately like, how do I fight a bad guy with that?
You fight hunger with that.
No, yeah.
Bananas out the nose, steak out the ears. Already cooked, perfect medium rare.
Yeah, and like just
Well,
for
I like mine
combat
well done.
scenarios, you can shoot that banana just like half the speed of light. It just like
Oh my god.
just like
Jesus
blast through someone, you know.
It blasts through quite a few things before it stopped at half the fucking speed of light.
I think it's probably just smashing itself. It's
I don't
probably
know,
it's
man.
probably leaving a dent on whatever it's
serious
hitting.
question for you. What can you explain to me what a neutrino is?
Yeah, it's a
Yay, more science talk. I love it.
specific type of wavicle. So
The wavicle, is that a hard term?
yeah. It's so particles. A lot of things tend to act like waves and particles
Because they're like a super small thing.
they yeah.
Right,
Only
right.
super small things can do that.
They tend to travel as a what's called a wave packet.
They can only do it because they're so light and they're moving closer to the speed of light.
Right. So it's another example of like, what's actually there is a continuum, and then we have different models because they're good for explaining different situations better. So it's called a wavicle because there's certain situations where it's good to model it as a particle. There's just certain situations where it's good to model it as a wave.
So it's a particle that moves as a wave.
Yeah, I mean photons are the same thing.
Right,
so it's
right,
a wavicle,
right.
We model it as a particle because it acts like a particle most of the time. But if you zoom in on it, it's a little tiny what's called a wave packet. It's a bunch of electromagnetic waves condensed together, really close together, so that it's like a little particle moving around.
So is it technically massless? Is a photon massless?
No.
Why can neutrinos
move
move through material and photons cannot?
They're very very high energy. If it's been a minute since I've studied this stuff.
I thought photons were the most high energy. That's like so confusing.
No, photons. No. You got alpha particles and shit or higher energy than.
There's difference between the speed that you're traveling and the energy that you.
It's all traveling.
contain.
It's all traveling light speed, right?
Right.
Wait, no. If something has mass, it cannot technically travel at the speed of light.
Well, right. So it's been a minute since I've studied this stuff. So if you're listening, please don't take what I'm saying as gospel.
Oh yeah, no. I was just
It's a modeling thing. So it acts like it has mass because when it runs into stuff, it behaves like a particle. So so you can say that it has mass.
Right.
Because that's a good way to explain it.
But a neutrino isn't quite the same. A neutrino also interacts with matter, but it has to be dense enough matter.
Right.
So because there are neutrino detectors, and they're built in such a way to actually capture neutrinos.
So neutrino detectors. So
they're
technically telescopes. They build them in like the bottom of mine shafts. They build them like hundreds of meters underground.
I've seen the Veritasium video.
Yeah, right. So what do you know about quantum tunneling?
Nothing.
All right. So if a particle is high energy enough, if you model it quantum mechanically, then you've got like what's called the waveform. It's like a map of like the probability that the particle is in any location. So if you have a box and then you calculate the waveform of a particle that's bouncing back and forth in that box, there is a small % chance that it tunnels into the matter on either side of that box.
Because it's quantum.
Right, because it's quantum mechanical. And one way to think of it is that it's the very small chance that because it's a small enough thing, it just slips through the cracks of the molecules of the side of the box.
So how thick the thicker something you have, the probability that happens goes way down.
Right, exactly. And because you're trying to catch the neutrinos, you want to be underneath a bunch of stuff. So then there's it will have a smaller and smaller chance of actually getting stopped by the matter. And even then, so I think the number is it's either a billion or a trillion. It's an insane number, but there's like a billion neutrinos going through your fingernail every second.
Is that real?
Yeah. Like that amount of surface area.
But that radiation isn't dangerous because it doesn't have a high mass.
Well, yeah, it's not interacting with your fingernail. It's just going through it. It's just tunneling
it's
straight.
It's not dense enough.
Right, it's just tunneling straight through it, right, yeah.
But if a radiation it has a mass, it does more damage.
Yeah, and because
it's bigger and it has more energy.
I think that's accurate, but that's a very simplistic way to put it.
That's one way to put it. I would probably more say just like if it interacts with your meat more than
typically something with more mass would interact.
Right, exactly.
So yeah,
not necessarily just more mass. It's just if it interacts more, it's gonna wiggle your particles more and fuck up your meat more.
So what's the
you don't want your meat particles wiggling.
Yeah, you don't want. I mean that's
unless you wiggle them.
So there's a threshold.
That's heat. That's right. That's what a temperature is inside of
any piece
solid,
of matter.
Yeah, any solid. That's what temperature is.
The oscillation of the...
intermolecular oscillation.
So
I
had a question.
Your atoms bouncing around like within the molecular structure that they're a part of.
So we're talking about wavicles. Is the fact that it acts as a wave and a particle objective fact of how it behaves, or is it a result of human perspective?
Yeah, right. I mean, this is all the way I view things. You know,
No, but
I'll say it a bunch of times. Don't take anything I say.
No,
as
but I'm truly
gospel.
asking.
This is
like,
an open
like, is
conversation
that
because no one truly understands.
like in physics?
Unto it,
in
right.
in
and
the
there's
world,
definitely people with a better understanding
Oh.
than me.
like is it objectively acting as a wave and a particle, or is it just like the human lens we're studying it through? We
so
seem to
mo-
perceive it as a wave sometimes.
It's a matter of modeling and how it's useful to view it is
Okay.
what I'll say because like a photon.
So there's
it's
really
carrying-
no way to separate that.
It's just not useful to. So here's a photon. If you zoom in on it, you look at it entirely objectively, it's a wave. It travels as a wave packet. It's a bunch of electromagnetic waves grouped really tightly together. But because it's traveling as that wave packet, there's still a lot of situations, most situations even, where it will behave like a particle. If you have another photon, they will bounce off each other like two little billiard balls.
Right.
They'll act like a particle.
refraction.
Right. So you might as well just call it a particle and do the math as if it's a particle because that's how it's going to behave anyway.
It's the way we
Right.
describe it.
It's modeling.
We have
right? It's how you
mathematical
model it.
modeling of
Right.
these things, right?
Right.
Okay.
Huh. That's
So-
really interesting.
Right. So that's where that's all my understanding of it because there are situations where it'll act like a wave, and there are situations where it'll act exactly the same as a particle. And in those cases, you might as well just call it a particle and
Okay.
calculate it like it's
Is-
a particle.
Is there a mass?
So
at
then you
which-
can do useful things.
So
you can
from
make
my-
useful predictions.
The
with
way
that.
the answer I was trying to get from asking that, it probably wasn't the best way to ask that question, but it seems like even if you take away the human perspective, you still get the same results.
Yeah, right.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, obviously you do. Obviously
Yeah,
you do.
and it-
but
and it
I
is-
guess I'm just asking, like, the way we describe it. Is it? I mean, I guess it.
Right. That's why it's described that way. I mean, again, my understanding of it, but I think that it would be. I think if you were to look at it completely objectively, you would say that a photon is a wave because it travels as a wave packet.
So is there a mass at which a particle can no longer move as a wave? Obviously there is, but like, what is the point that
Yeah,
which the? Do you know? Like,
Is that a hard limit?
It has to be.
There might.
No, it depends
I
on the
don't know.
speed at which you accelerate that particle, right?
Right,
Because if
yeah, I
you
don't know.
accelerated the particle, which is me, to close to the speed of light, I would probably look like I was moving like a fucking wave. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Per- that's
Perhaps.
true.
Yeah.
So it's like
relative to me.
right, relative to whatever.
So
Yeah.
do you think it's possible that the source of gravity could be wavicle?
Yeah, so that's.
yeah, let's talk about gravity. I
That's,
wanna- I'll tell you about gravity.
that's an unproven particle, or maybe it's just a modeling thing again that I don't understand. But there's this idea of gravitons.
Yeah, that's why I was going to ask, because I know the concept of gravitons, and then we have gravitational waves.
Yeah,
So
right. Yeah, and so we know that gravity moves at the speed of light also. So like the gravitational effect of the sun on Earth. So you've probably heard the stat before that the light from the sun that's hitting us right now is 8 minutes old. It takes
Right.
8 minutes for the
Right.
light to get here from the sun. So if the sun completely disappeared all of a sudden, Earth would continue to orbit the sun as if it were still there for 8 minutes because the gravity would
It's the
take
speed of
that
light.
long. Right, is the speed of light. And if I'm correct in this, I'm pretty sure gravitons are still like an unproven
Yeah,
thing.
I think they're
but
still totally
but like based
theoretical.
on what I just said, that we know that gravity moves the speed of light. Like it seems
It's logical.
It seems intuitive.
how do we
right?
know that
Yeah.
gravity
Logical.
moves the speed of light?
You can do it based on watching things that are in a very far orbit from each other when the other one undergoes a big mass change.
you can measure how long it takes for the
Right.
reciprocating
Right.
object to change.
So
its
if there's
trajectory.
two stars in a very broad orbit with each other, and this one supernovas, you can observe that the other star will still orbit the first one.
for the
as
same
if
amount
it
of
were the
time
same,
that it would
right?
take for the light to get there.
Right.
Right. I follow that.
Well, the mass when the star explodes, all the mass is still there
Huh? No.
for a period of time.
Like it's blasted out into fucking space, a lot of it.
Right.
Yeah, I know, but for a time is like right when the sun dies, that mass is still there,
So
and it takes time for it to disperse.
It's pretty instantaneous.
Here's the other thing about gravity is that mass matters, but density also matters, and it
Yeah.
goes back to gravity being
Probably happens the dispersion right about the speed of light.
right.
Well, of course, obviously.
It depends on the
So it's
supernova.
like-
That would be I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure
know,
type 1A supernovas do that. I don't know.
It's
I don't
like it
remember
just
the
seems
types.
to be one of those things that you can draw a conclusion on
Yeah.
because it kind of correlates, but like the relationship is not quite.
That's what we're saying. It's
Yeah.
like it's logical, it's intuitive, but it's not necessarily
how it actually
100% proven exactly.
Right. If you can't do it, if you can't show it with an experiment, then you can't. I mean,
But we know that
you can't say that it's proven in a scientific sense.
But we know that all of the instances we study show the same results.
Right, and then the intuitive solution.
Right, then we
of
draw that conclusion.
Right,
We
is that
infer.
there's probably gravitons and like that makes sense to think that, and because we know that gravity travels the speed of light from all these different gravitational studies. A lot of it has to do with watching stuff getting sucked into black holes because they're undergoing big mass
And it makes
changes and
sense
stuff like
because
that.
it seems like most of the fundamental forces of the universe kind of act in wavicles.
Yeah,
So it would make sense that gravity would follow that same
right.
suit.
Yeah.
I like the idea of gravity where it's like the blanket and you put the ball on it.
Yeah,
I like that one.
Space time.
Yeah, space
Yeah, the
time.
space-time
It's hard to
fabric.
think about it in 3-dimensional terms.
It is.
Right.
But there's some cool like graphics.
But
and
it's
stuff
kind
you can go look at.
of it's not really though, because all you have to do is imagine that sheet in every feasible direction surrounding that.
Yeah, all you have to do is imagine an abstract bending sheet in every feasible direction. That's it.
Yeah,
You just have to understand
I'm doing that right
infinite
now.
dimensions.
But you see what I'm saying though? Like it's easy to explain that. Imagine if
Yeah,
that
right,
sheet
right.
was
No, yeah, it's a really good
wrapped
example.
around that thing in every possible angle.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that would,
right,
that would
right.
be an example. That would be the way it would look.
Yeah.
Well, also there's a plane that, I mean, most things are like on a bit of a plane.
Right. It's weird.
Yeah. So that has to do with gravity also. So things in orbit around a bigger gravitational mass. Is that the wind or is it about to start raining again?
That's the wind right now.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully blowing that storm away.
Yeah, but yeah. So things tend to end up in a plane around whatever. I mean, that's why you see planets with like a disk, or like all the planets around the sun are like on the same plane, the plane of the ecliptic. And the reason that happens is like imagine you've got the sun in the middle and then stuff orbiting along all these different angles of orbital paths. Those things are going to gravitate towards each other also. So they'll affect each other's orbital path until eventually it forms a
Well,
plane.
That
the
makes sense
sun
to me.
is also an ellipse and would have the most gravity at the center. So things would on that plane. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you mean like
So,
it's
like-
it's not spherical? Is what you're saying?
Question. Does the
I mean, it's
moon,
it's pretty goddamn spherical. So is the Earth.
But no, let's think of the Earth. We know the
Oblique
Earth.
spheroid.
We know the
Yeah,
Earth
right.
is kind of
the-
an ellipse. Does the moon does not go around the center? It doesn't orbit around the center axis of the Earth.
Is the moon's
thickest-
orbit elliptical?
No. It does. Is the
Slightly.
moon's orbit around the equatorial region, the most
No.
No.
dense version?
It changes. Doesn't it propagate?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
And it's not around the. I forget. I used to know the angle, but I don't know the angle from the equator that it orbits.
But he's just saying, like,
But it does change
as you
over
have
time,
an
too.
orb instead of a disk, if you have an orb of matter that's all circling around the sun, that all that matter is going to be attracted to itself as well as the sun.
Oh.
So the longer that everything is attracted towards that center and towards itself,
Yeah.
and then that mass coalesces into more dense and massive objects.
There's also angular
then they-
momentum involved.
And they're typically
Right,
going to
yeah.
settle on one plane because the gravity is pulling everything closer and closer and closer together.
Yeah, because those two things, like say you got the sun, you got something orbiting like this way, and then something orbiting this way, like at an angle. Yeah,
Right.
Those two things are going to have gravity towards each other as well. So eventually,
So over
they come
time,
to a
it'll
plane
settle into the
orbiting
plane.
the same plane.
I guess what I'm
around
trying
the
to
sun.
say is like the sun to us rises east to west.
Right.
Okay, meaning perceptively, it looks like the sun is moving around to us. Not really, the thickest part of Earth.
No.
Well,
Earth's on a tilt.
Yeah, Earth's,
It does tilt, but it's closer to that center
23.3.
point. Exactly.
No, but I thought it was like 30 degrees, and then
It's,
it orbits like that at a 30 degree. Like that
It's,
has nothing
20
to do with the thickest part of the Earth.
Yeah, it's
It changes.
23.3 degrees, I believe.
yeah, it changes.
What are you talking about? The tilt of the Earth does not change.
I
I mean, it's not enough to make a difference.
Right, it changes very, very slowly.
Not enough to make a perceivable difference to us here on Earth.
So I will say,
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
we
the
should
passing
wrap
of
it
the
up soon.
seasons.
No,
I will say
That's the relationship of the
I
tilt
have,
to the sun. That's not a propagation of the tilt.
I have a really good story about this. So yeah, the tilt change is called a precession. So
Precession, not propagation.
The tilt of the Earth is slowly,
Precession of the equinox? Is that the same thing? I think so.
I don't know.
No.
No.
But the precession of the Earth's axial tilt, anyway,
Right.
the axis goes in like a little circle over a really long time. They know this because they can compare star charts now versus star charts from
Precession,
really
of,
old.
precession
Wobbles.
of the equinox. That's
Wobbles
what-
very slightly
so,
around
so
that
the
tilt.
axis does like a little circle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it would like the axis on either side kind of carves
But yeah,
out
the
like a cone.
equator is
But-
theoretically the widest part of the Earth, and
Right.
we don't. It's not like the equator is perfectly lined up to the plane of the solar system.
That's what I was
not,
asking.
yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, yeah, it's not at all that.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with the relationship to the sun.
Yeah,
Well,
but,
there's so many other
Earth's
factors.
orbit,
Yeah.
but Earth's orbit around the sun is pretty much aligned to.
And also,
plane of
the
solar
only
system.
reason we have the tilt is because on the Earth, those are the magnetic poles.
right?
You know, it has nothing to do with gravity. It has something to do with the magnetism
And the spin of the Earth
That's the
is-
only reason we have the
Yeah,
tilt.
and the magnetic pole is slightly different from the geographic pole,
Right.
which is like the actual rotational axis that it's
Right.
spinning on. But anyway, so Earth's axis precesses, and that means that a long time ago they didn't have the same North Star. Right now, it's pointed at the North Star. It's like, you know, it's very slightly off. If you have a good enough telescope, the North Star makes a little circle in the sky over the nighttime too. But the North Star now is not the same North Star they had a couple thousand years ago, because it takes, I think it's 23,000 years for
Precession of the equinox. That's what it is.
the precession of the
that
axis,
does make
right?
sense, because as the axis tilts, the equinox of the season is going to change.
Right. Yeah,
So
right.
they had
That
they
makes sense.
Yeah, you
use
were right
different
about that.
they use different stars to navigate
Right.
the night sky to navigate their travels. Like they had
Yeah.
different totally different
Yeah.
what do they call them?
Star charts or constellations.
Constellations.
Yeah. Well, constellations are
Arbitrary.
like, arbitrary cultural things. Anyway, a
Right.
lot of them are not even like true constellations, in that like we've learned that like they're in like different.
They're not even
patches
related
of
to
the
each
sky.
other.
They're
Yeah.
like way far apart. They're
Yeah.
just visually aligned, right?
Right.
Some of them are clusters, like they're all born from
And the ones
same-
that are closer change their position more quickly.
Right, yeah, that's parallax, right? But so they had to figure this out, and it led to the first confirmation of a supernova. Was they had to realign all their star charts based on the knowledge that the ancient Egyptian astronomers they were looking at a different star as the North Star. So they had to calculate the precession of the Earth and use that star as the North Star
I
and
wonder-
realign everything. But what they found was that there was a nebula that they thought was a supernova remnant, but they had no way to confirm it because they hadn't seen any supernovas yet. This is in like the 70s, I think. They hadn't seen any supernova yet, like firsthand, to know that like, and then afterward, that's what a supernova remnant looks like. So they thought it was the leftovers from a supernova, but they weren't sure. They went and found ancient Egyptian astronomers' notes that said like this huge light ripped across the sky at this point in the sky, and it was visible like during the daytime for like a full month. And they're like, that's a supernova, and it's in the same spot in the sky as our supernova remnant. So like that's what that is. That was how they first confirmed a supernova, was based on ancient Egyptian astronomers' fucking notes from like thousands of years
That's
ago.
wild.
All right.
From a person who studied astrophysics, do you think the greatest threat to our civilization is
Asteroid impact.
some sort of terrestrial impact? Extraterrestrial impact.
I mean that would do it.
I think
When
it's
I
just-
say extraterrestrial, I don't mean alien. I mean like a comet
not
or an
of
asteroid.
the Earth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the definition
Right.
of extraterrestrial, not the right. I mean, I don't think that's our greatest threat, but I think if there's an asteroid coming to Earth big enough to destroy all of us, we basically can't do anything to stop it right now.
Yeah.
We basically don't.
Didn't we
have
try
it,
something?
even
Didn't we do a test on that?
We did. We've done
We
it.
tried to divert a meteor like a few years ago,
we
didn't we?
Oh yeah, we did.
successfully
We
did
did. The dart. It was. I
I don't know how big that was or
how
how much potential that had to destroy us.
Oh, none at all. But
Right.
they they
They were
just
just
wanted to
seeing
test
if they
it.
could
Proof
change
of
the
concept.
angle.
Proof
Yeah.
of concept.
Yeah, proof of concept.
But that's a very specific situation.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And it's
Like,
also scary because people think
Because if an asteroid's big enough to destroy us all, the mass of it would be like it would take so much energy to
Right,
deflect it,
right.
and especially to deflect it because like Earth's big.
It's
Yeah.
like how
To
soon did
deflect
you
it
see
enough.
it? Did you see it like 60 days before? Did you see it 20 days before? Did you see it 2 years
And
before?
that's another
Like,
thing.
what's the
Asteroids are hard to fucking see.
that's what's scary. That's what I was going to say.
especially if they're
is
coming from the direction of the sun?
one of the big ones we
Yeah,
spotted
any-
that was
any direction. They're just hard to see. You're right.
one of the big ones we spotted that was gonna
They're small.
have a very close collision course with Earth. NASA didn't even find it. It was an amateur astronomer
Right.
who
I've been-
found
I've
it in
been
his fucking
really
house.
like
Right.
mentally freaking over it lately. Like just like
Yeah.
looking at the sky.
Don't worry
So-
about what you can't control.
So you would think right like we could just like blow it up, nuke it, right? But then it's
No.
still gonna have
You're talking like Armageddon style.
it's
Like the
gonna
movie
have-
Armageddon. Ben
right.
Affleck.
Gonna rain down tiny little particles all over.
Right, right.
Fuck Ben
exactly.
Affleck. Bruce Willis all the way.
Sure, is that a dichotomy? But like Affleck versus fucking Willis that I'm not aware of?
I'm just being stupid. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, keep up the stupidity because we should wind this down soon.
Yeah, we should. But yeah, if you blew it up, like it would still have most of the momentum headed towards Earth anyway. And like really the killer is how much energy it's going to put into the atmosphere, not the actual impact.
So
Because like it's going to have like a shockwave. It's going to superheat the fucking upper atmosphere and anything it comes in contact with because it's going to be all that friction
yeah,
from
How-
whatever mass coming across it.
We-
So yeah, it's a whole big thing.
we can run through this quick, but like, how massive would an impact have to be to shift the orbit of Earth?
Fuck me, dude. I don't even know.
Like moon size?
It's probably
It
something
depends
like
on
that.
the speed of the asteroid.
And how far would the orbit have to shift before we started falling to the sun at a very rapid rate?
Holy fuck.
I could calculate some of this stuff, but it would take me
That would
forever.
have to be enormous.
Dude,
Yeah, I mean, we had an impact big enough to make the moon, and
Right.
and
Right.
it didn't
Dude,
fucking put
this
us
is
off
what,
orbit.
This is what
right.
blows
Well, I mean,
my
do we
mind.
know?
Huh?
Do we know? Or maybe because we had the part of the collision may have broke off some of the mass of the Earth as well to form the moon, right?
That's why.
So
yeah, that's
maybe
what
because
happened.
maybe the orbit did shift, but the Earth was less massive now, so the orbit found
Yeah,
equilibrium
yeah,
again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I mean, it's because I mean, relative to the other planets and stuff, the Earth and the Moon are really close together,
Right.
so they act as one gravitational system.
Okay,
So it
makes sense.
right?
That
So
makes
it
sense.
doesn't really matter
Yeah.
if they're
that makes sense.
if you've got the same mass distributed,
It's still on the same-
It
yeah.
would just shift the center of gravity.
Essentially,
of the
at
system.
scale, it's still one object.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Calling
yeah, I get what you're
calling it
saying.
a particle even though it's a wave.
Right.
Right.
This
Right.
that moon, our
Or
moon,
it-
is
yeah.
covered in impacts.
Covered.
Yeah.
Well, there's no
Covered.
because it
Well,
has no atmosphere to stop the smaller ones.
Right.
Well, and they're
That's
so
the biggest
visible. Like you
reason.
can't. The Earth is covered with like all sorts of different shit,
Foliage.
right? Like you can't see the impacts that Earth has taken this clearly as you can
Right.
see the ones on the moon.
And I mean, so many burn up in our atmosphere.
That's
yeah,
true,
yeah. I
too.
think the stat is 10,000 a day, 10,000 meteors a day.
Oh, what,
come
like-
into our atmosphere?
Baseball sized and smaller.
Yeah. Or I think
No.
it might be 10,000 a
Well,
day.
I'm saying that burn up.
Right. I might
A car size, like if car size comes.
A car
in-
size will explode and have like Tunguska.
No, Tunguska was way bigger.
yeah.
It was way bigger.
Car size will be almost gone.
It'll
by
be
the time
gone.
it hits
Okay.
the
Yeah.
ground, which is crazy to think
Well, I
about.
guess it
but-
also it just depends on at what speed it hits and how much energy is
Yeah.
diverted when it
Yeah,
makes
it does.
impact with the atmosphere. And I'm sure that also might come down to the angle it hits the Earth.
But no, but does it
Yeah.
have a
You know,
terminal
because if it-
velocity?
If it hit not
Yeah,
in
it
space,
It has to have a terminal velocity.
Well, I mean, so terminal velocity, and that's an interesting thing. Like, you remember Felix Baumgartner who
Right.
jumped from space, basically?
the air was thinner, so his
Right,
terminal velocity
so
was
he-
higher.
Right, so there's a point in his fall where he slowed down because the thickness of the air
Right.
decreased his
Right.
terminal velocity.
But like
right?
if a meteor hits the Earth at an angle, it has to travel through more atmosphere to hit the ground, so it's more likely that it's not going to make it to the ground. Whereas if it hits straight on, there's
of
way
course.
less
Yeah,
atmosphere
yeah,
it has
yeah.
to cut through.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God,
fucking
so
awesome.
fucking wild, man.
It's a beautiful world we live in, and we're just out here in it.
No, I think it's
Sitting
vicious.
in
It's
it.
a vicious world we live in.
Out here in it. Right? Yeah, vicious is beautiful. Nature is beautiful
Yeah.
and vicious.
All right, I think we're trying to close out
Yeah.
here, but I did want to take a second to say that I super enjoyed this, and I'm glad I got to see you guys.
Hell
Dude, I'm
yeah.
so
very
glad.
briefly. Hopefully, I can be a part of podcasts.
Do you want to say anything about Hawaii, dude? Just as someone who's been there, like
Yeah, fucking live.
Hawaii-
you lived there, lived on the island that has suffered.
Yeah. So
Kihei, right?
yeah, I live in Kihei. The town that burned down is Lahaina. That's where I was teaching. If you don't know that, so I had a lot of students that lost. Fuck.
If you don't want to get into it, you don't have to.
It's rough. But I had a lot of students that lost like their whole homes and family members and stuff. As far as I know, all of my students that I've heard of are safe. I haven't had any of my personal students be confirmed dead from the fires. So I'm holding out hope. I've still got 4 more that I haven't heard from. So, fuck. 'Cause it's been like a month now.
So are those people being housed on other islands?
The
people, the survivors?
Yeah, so some of them, a lot of people have like family
On the
like
island.
on Oahu or Big
Yeah.
Island or whatever. So a lot of people went other places. A lot of the hotels have offered up like rooms because they don't have tourists on the island right now anyway. So they're just
Right.
because of the fires. So they offered up hotel rooms to a lot of the people recovering from the fires. Yeah, dude, the fucking response to the fires has been crazy, dude. Like, it's awesome to see just
The community.
Right, the community is so strong there, and it's something I like. I never really personally experienced it anywhere else. I mean, I grew up in I moved from New Jersey when I was 9. Then Union is not like the most tight-knit community. Like,
No.
there's a lot of people who don't treat each other very well in
Yeah.
Union. And then, I moved to Charleston. Charleston's a city. People don't give a shit about each other in the city. It's kind of why you want to live there even sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Maui and Lahaina especially, just like the community there is so strong. It's crazy to see.
It's fucking beautiful.
And yeah, just to see like how many they literally had to tell people to like stop donating certain items because like we don't have space for like we have enough clothes. We don't need you can't donate clothes anymore because we have as much
Man.
clothes
That's usually
as
the
we need.
thing we have in excess. Yeah.
Right, and but yeah, just to see and like people giving up their free time, people giving up just everything.
It's beautiful, man.
Can I ask?
insane.
I've been curious about this because obviously there's an environmental impact to that because I'm an environmental scientist or whatever.
Yeah.
So, like there's an environmental impact to that fire burning the things up that it did,
Yeah,
and there has to be some sort of effort to keep people safe because obviously people want to go back to their homes and go back to their land, what's left of their homes, or just check on their property, right? Like their personal property. And obviously there has to be some sort of like effort to keep those people safe because you can't go rooting through that.
Right.
dude,
debris. It's not- it's
especially
not good.
old. A lot of what burned down is like old Lahaina. It's like
Very historic.
really like pretty old buildings. So it's all like lead paint and
and
asbestos.
houses, all these old wooden houses. and
Right,
stuff.
right. So it's all like lead paint and asbestos that got burned up. So like the people that are there every day doing cleanup are like hazmat suits and stuff because like you can't be breathing fucking lead.
Right. No, of
Ash.
course, yeah.
And
so and
fucking
all those heavy
asbestos
metals,
ash.
yeah. But like, I wonder. So when are the people? When can those people? When is that
yeah. So
over? And when can the people start to go back and try to?
You've got the education to answer that one, buddy.
I'm not an expert, and I have certainly no experience in what's going on in Lahaina.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying,
it happened pretty quickly.
chemically.
I think within like a week after the fire was completely contained.
Cleanups are hard and arduous, and they take a long time.
Yeah, I know. I'm
So,
not
I mean,
denying
it's
that
like-
at all.
Yeah,
but
they've got.
that's the thing. At what point do you let people go back and?
Yeah, so they've let people back in. I mean, the town's back open again to a certain extent. I think there's like a curfew and stuff because they're worried about fucking looters and shit, which is.
But most of the people
awful
can't
to-
come back because they don't have any place to stay.
Right,
You know
right.
what I
So
mean?
it's a lot of people like going back just to like, sorry, a lot of people going back just to like look at their house and see if there's any closure, and to see if there's anything that they can get, and like to try and meet up with family members and stuff. You know, like anything that is salvageable from their house and shit like that. It's all pretty supervised. There's a pretty big like police presence over there right now to try and make sure people aren't doing anything stupid and staying safe and stuff.
So you think that's for the better? Because a lot of people are painting it in the light that it's like a sort of oppressive, or it's.
Well, I think the biggest issue is that the community is so supportive, but the government hasn't been on the same page.
Yeah, I mean the local government does okay. For the most part.
It's outside support that's lacking, and that's where all of the resources come from, because it's such an isolated island.
Right.
We should really, I hate to cut this, I mean, it's a beautiful response that the community has had, but we really need to cut this off before this rain picks up again.
All right, yeah. Great being a part of the pod.
It may not have been the most interesting pod to the listeners, but
that was fun, dude.
To me, that was the fucking, I love that. I love talking about this type of shit. That was episode 13. Thank everybody for listening. Fucking glad to have Quinn on. Fucking wonderful. Love it. Love you guys. Thank you.
Hang in there, motherfuckers.
Have a good, this comes out on Thursday, so have a good weekend. I don't think I've said that before.
Have a good Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Onward.
Love you guys.
Damn.
Love.